Better Half by Noel Coward.
I can never come up to dress for a late party without a small inward desire to go firmly to bed instead.
Oh, it certainly does look inviting. Anyhow, I don't envy you going out this evening. It's foully cold.
My face feels dreadfully hard and dry. I shall give it a sort of massage before I dress. Stay and talk to me.
All right. What's in this bottle?
Some scent of Guerlain's Après de Londay, I think.
Ah, it's lovely. You do have some lovely divine things.
Yes, I love a crowded dressing table. It gives me a sort of Dubarry Pompadourish sort of feeling. How I should have adored living in those days. All deceptions and intrigues and hiding lovers in cupboards and things.
I don't think those habits are entirely confined to the 18th century.
Perhaps not, but it all seemed more glamorous then. Think of the Harrison divorce case, how nasty and sordid it all sounds. I'm sure it would be quite romantic in a picturesque and correct costume.
According to the papers, Mrs. Harrison's lack of correct costume was one of the primary reasons for the divorce.
I wonder what I should do if David thrashed me nearly to death.
Oh, he never would. He'd be much too chivalrous.
Or what do you suppose he'd do then if he discovered I'd been behaving well, like Irene Harrison?
Oh, he'd be wonderful. He'd forgive you.
I'm not sure the thrashing wouldn't be better for me.
How can you, Alice? That man Harrison was an absolute brute.
A little primitive, perhaps, but on the whole, I think she deserved all she got.
Well, I don't. I think he should have tried to understand her and to have seen her point of view and to have helped her.
You and David think awfully alike, don't you?
Perhaps. I don't know.
Oh, yes, I'm constantly spotting little similarities in your remarks and general views on things.
Well, I think he has an extraordinarily fine character.
Oh, my dear, do you?
Yes, don't you?
No, but then I've been married to him for 6 years and you haven't.
Oh, I can't understand you, Alice. You have a good-looking, straight, honest husband who adores you, and yet you never seem to be satisfied.
Perhaps one desires something more than straightness, honesty, and good looks.
I can't bear to hear you talk like that, Alice. It's not worthy of you.
You mean it's not worthy of David?
Yes, I do.
Oh, poor Marion, it's beastly of me to tease you this way and try to shatter all your ideals.
Oh, you couldn't, however much you tried.
I wonder.
I suppose you're in love with somebody else, which is why you can't stand David anymore.
Oh, no, my dear, I'm not. And even if I were, I should never tell you. It'd be sure to leak out in one of your heart-to-heart talks with him.
Don't be catty.
I'm not, but one does get so carried away by heart-to-heart talks. They're an insidious habit, too. David revels in them. He loves to expound his theories and views on life. He's an excellent man, but he'd be still more excellent with fewer views.
Easier to manage, I suppose.
Oh, I find him quite easy to manage, thanks. Perhaps because I understand him so well.
I think you ought to be ashamed of yourself for not appreciating him more.
Sit down, dear, and don't be so cross. You're an old friend. You've known us both for so long. I'm only surprised you don't see through David a bit more. I suppose it must be because you're in love with him.
Alice!
Well, you know you are.
How dare you?
Don't be silly. You are.
Well, no, I'm nothing of the sort.
You needn't look so outraged. There's no earthly harm in being in love with David. As you said yourself, he's very good looking.
You're utterly impossible, Alice.
Now, why? I'm not being in the least bit catty or cross or anything. I don't love him a bit, and I'm perfectly willing that you should.
Well, thank you.
It's silly to pretend you're not. It would be obvious to a blind mule, and I'm not quite as stupid as that.
I'm not so sure.
Doesn't this cream smell divine?
Oh, all right. Okay, I suppose so. We'll just change the subject.
Oh, I don't want to change it entirely, just to branch off for a moment until you're calmer.
I'm perfectly calm.
Then stop bobbing up like a jack-in-the-box. Oh, I love doing this. Oh, I must be very sensual.
Why do you hate David so?
I don't hate him at all. I just despise him a tiny bit.
But why?
Because he's so big about everything. He loves being big. He was big about the war. He was big when his sister had an illegitimate child and told him about it. And at any sort or kind of crisis, he rises to the occasion. And it's wonderful to watch for the first time. You feel a thrill. You say to yourself, what a dear he is. What a broad-minded, understanding, sympathetic old dear. Then he does it again over something else. And again, and again, and again, until you hear it all clanking like machinery.
You mean to tell me that all that empathy and broad-mindedness is not genuine?
No, it's not.
Well, don't be absurd.
One day I shall do something dreadful. I'd shatter all his smug complacency somehow. That's the word that describes it best, smug. Oh, if you could only hear him going on about things, outside things. He talks about other people's raw, aching troubles from his own elevated standpoint. He spent the whole of breakfast this morning forgiving Irene Harrison. I sometimes think that he regrets the fact that there aren't more worries and upsets in his own home life. It must be tiresome only to have little things to be big about, like the coffee being cold or the hot water bottle bursting.
I'm awfully sorry for you, Alice.
Thank you, dear.
Perhaps it's having so much money and everything you want that makes you somehow lose the things of life.
Don't you go being big, Marion, or I shall throw a brush at you.
All right, I won't. But I should like to tell you something.
Do, dear.
You were right just now.
You don't mean to say I've convinced you? How marvellous!
No, I don't. I mean, you were right when you said that I love David. I do.
Well, to quote the popular song, there you are then.
Don't be flippant about it. It's just awful.
Oh, there I disagree with you. It isn't a bit awful being in love with David. I was once, and I know. He always plays up, unless you catch him at a particularly bad moment, and I'm sure you never would.
I've told him that I love him.
What did he say? I'm sure he was splendid.
Well, you can jeer if you like, but he was splendid. He showed me that he truly and sincerely understood, and he made me very happy.
Oh, not too happy, I hope, dear.
And you'll never be happy like that, ever, as long as you live. Never, never, never.
Oh, don't be vindictive, Marion. Just because I refuse to have a scene with you.
Oh, you're totally and utterly lacking in any real feeling.
I'm totally and utterly lacking any real feeling about David, but that should make it all the more comfortable for you. You can have your cake and lie in it or whatever.
That's merely vulgar.
It wasn't meant to be. Perhaps all David's theories on life have made your mind a little too broad-minded. You see things that aren't there.
I'm going now, and I don't think I should like to see you for a very, very long time.
Do come on Friday week. We'll go and see Loyalties.
Oh, I do hate quarreling with you, Alice. I wish to heaven you'd really fall in love with someone yourself, and then perhaps you'd understand as he understands.
You mean because he loves me still?
Yes, because he's in love with you still.
Well, you needn't be so Spartan about it. He isn't.
What? What do you mean?
He loves himself.
Oh, bollocks.
Oh, hello, David. You're dressed early.
It's getting on for 10.
I'm not nearly ready yet.
It doesn't matter. I've just been across the street to see Mrs. Benson's kitty. He's a bit better tonight. I don't know why, but I can't bear to see a child suffer.
Really, how extraordinary. The most of us love it.
What are you in a temper about, old thing?
I'm not in a temper, David. Perhaps just a little irritable.
Oh, I've seen the evening paper.
No.
Irene Harrison's bolted.
Oh, with Charlie Templeton, I suppose.
No, that's what I can't make out. It's another man altogether, Ronald something. I'll go and get it.
No, David, don't. I'm really too sick of the whole affair to take any more interest.
I should have thought you'd be thrilled in knowing her and everything.
It's because I know her that I'm not thrilled. I've no patience with her now, and I never have.
Poor girl, she's been through a pretty rough time.
I wonder if you'd think so, if you were her husband.
I try to be. I think it's up to a man to try to realize things from all points of view.
Oh, perhaps after all the old way is best.
What old way?
Jack Harrison's way.
That damned cad.
Of course, he did outrage a club rule, never hit a woman.
He ought to be shot.
Oh, don't go on firing cliches like that. Damn cad ought to be shot. He loved her and trusted her, absolutely.
A pleasant way of showing it.
She betrayed his trust and failed him all round. Therefore, he obeyed the first primitive instinct that came to him and thrashed her thoroughly, as she richly deserved.
Yes, and now she's left him for good.
Which only proves all the more the wisdom of his policy. If he had forgiven her and taken her back, she'd have gone on being unfaithful, and he would have gone on forgiving her, and they would have been wretched for life. As it is, he's brought things to a head. She's burnt her boats and bolted. He'll be miserable for a few months. Then as time goes on, he'll gradually get over it and marry someone else in a comfortably disillusioned frame of mind.
You argue well, Alice, I'll give you that.
Thank you.
But you won't convince me. You see, I've really gone into the subject.
With Marion?
Yes, sometimes with Marion. She's a good talker, old Mary.
Oh, don't be so cruel, David. She's only a little bit older than you, and I'm sure she doesn't show it, especially at night.
I'm always a great believer in talking things over thoroughly, developing one's sense of values.
Or completely obliterating it with your own sophistry.
Everything can be brought to a satisfactory conclusion eventually if you have facts.
I think that when the real moments of life come along, one should obey one's instincts and not one's carefully worked out theories. Face facts by all means, but don't just face the ones you've made yourself.
I'm afraid you're getting a little involved, silly old thing.
You're wonderfully contented, aren't you, David?
Yes, I'm working out my own little philosophy.
Splendid. I suppose that's the reason you were so charming and unembarrassed when Marion told you she was in love with you.
You know?
Yes, she told me just now.
I shall love you always. You'll be sure of that, my darling.
It gives you a warm and comfortable feeling with having someone be in love with you, doesn't it?
I don't know. I suppose so.
I should like to have been there watching when she told you, just to see how you took it. I have a little mental picture of it. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I say, dear, is this quite fair to poor old Marion?
Quite. I always believe in facing facts. I'm sure poor old Marion would be quite in accordance with that.
It's no use getting angry.
I'm not in the least angry, only frightfully interested. I suppose it all took place in the drawing room.
Yes, as a matter of fact, it did.
I thought so. The atmosphere is excellent for that sort of thing. Probably after dinner one night when I was out.
Yes.
So warm and cosy. I do hope you didn't have all the lights on, just the orange reading lamp.
Oh, yes, just the orange reading lamp.
She'd been leading up to it for a while, I imagine, talking mostly about you, so as to get you into a sufficiently receptive state of mind. Then she sprang it on you. There was silence for a moment, I think. You gave her one look, prompted perhaps by the subconscious suspicion that she was playing a joke on you. Then you saw that her eyes were wet and gleaming with that particular brand of dog-like admiration that all my female friends seem to be able to assume when you're in the room, and you were reassured. And you put out your hand consolingly and patted hers, and probably said, "Marion, old friend, you shouldn't have told me this."
Look here, Alice, you're not being very decent.
Shh, don't interrupt. I have a passion for reconstruction, like Sherlock Holmes.
Oh.
Then, after a few sentimental remarks from both parties, you said that you understood, and she asked you to kiss her.
She told you that?
And you kissed her, without hesitation, because you were sorry for her and realized how unhappy she was.
It wasn't fair of her to tell you that.
She didn't. She told me very little. All this has just been my imagination of the scene. I told you to correct me if I were wrong.
Now look here, Alice, don't be cross with her. She wasn't betraying her friendship with you. I swear she wasn't. Only, you know, we have talked, she and I, just lately. We've discussed a good many things. Her type of mind appeals to me. She's so jolly clear-sighted, and, well, we decided a long time ago to be real pals and not try to hide things from one another. That's why she told me, and that's why she told you. She was just playing straight.
I'm not cross with her, David, but you do love me best, don't you?
Alice.
You see,
You silly, jealous old darling, I love you better than anyone or anything in the world.
Really and truly.
You know I do. Really and truly, now and always.
Don't. Oh, don't.
Why, what's the matter?
Don't touch me.
What's wrong? Tell me, what's wrong?
I'm not worthy of you, David.
Alice, what?
I've made my mind up. I'm not going to deceive you anymore.
Deceive me?
Don't look like that. David, I haven't been true to you.
What?
I haven't been true to you.
What do you mean you haven't? Oh, I see. This is a little test, is it? Just to see whether I thrash you or not, like Jack Harrison.
Are you content to go on believing it is just a test?
Quite, old dear, but I'm afraid it hasn't been much of a success, has it?
Oh, David, thank you. Thank you, David.
Here, I say, Alice, for heaven's sake, don't go on. Alice, what's the matter with you?
Oh, go away. Leave me
Alice.
alone. Go away, go away, go away.
Well, I don't know what you're going on like this for, just because your little plan for my discomfiture didn't come off.
Oh, my God.
What is it now?
Do you still really believe it was only a test?
Believe it, but
I thought you understood.
You mean what you said was true?
Yes.
Alice, who was it?
Leonard McIntyre.
Leonard McIntyre.
Yes.
But when, where? I've never heard of him.
You've seen him several times, but you never suspected.
I can't believe
What
it.
are you going to do?
What is there to do? Do you love him?
No, not now, not anymore. It's all over.
Leonard McIntyre. Leonard McIntyre. I can't place him.
What What difference does it make if you can place him or not? The fact remains that I'm an unfaithful wife. Sounds funny, doesn't it? Oh, David.
How long did this go on?
6 months.
When did you last see him?
In November, he came to say goodbye. He asked me to go away with him.
Where to?
To India, of course.
Oh. Well, why didn't you tell me before?
I wish I had. I wish to God I had. You can believe me or not as you like, but I've suffered. It's been gnawing at me for these weeks. Every morning I woke with that awful leaden feeling of guilt on my heart until I thought I should go mad.
It's all so unexpected, so incredible. I never thought.
Oh, stop. What difference does all that make now? We've got to face it.
We'll talk it all over thoroughly tomorrow.
But David...
Anyhow, whatever we decide, you can rely upon one thing always. I love only you.
Thank you, David.
You've often laughed at me, but you see, I can understand.
You mustn't forgive me. You mustn't forgive me yet. You say you understand, but you never could really understand all I've done. It seems strange to be telling you all this now in cold blood, but I feel quite numb about it. I suppose because I've made up my mind, absolutely, to tell the truth. Whatever happens after. You've been living in a fool's paradise, David. We've been superficially happy together, and you've trusted me all along. That makes it all so much worse. Oh, if only you'd been suspicious or jealous once or twice. But you weren't. You weren't ever. Trusted me implicitly, and now, tonight, when Marion told me of her love for you, I suddenly realized what a doubly selfish beast I was, to go on deceiving you, lying to you. She loves you truly, David, and you could love her in time. I know you could, and she'd be worthy of it. And I'm not fit to wipe your boots.
Stop it, Alice. I won't have you talking like that.
No, it's true. It's true. I told you of Leonard McIntyre. But what will you say now, What will you say now when I tell you the whole truth? That he was only one of many, yes. Don't stop me. Let me go on. Let me go on to the bitter end. I don't care now. It all had to come out sometime. I've had lovers for nearly 3 years now. Do you hear me? Nearly 3 years, and you never guessed. Don't you see how funny it is? I've been deceiving you all this time. What's the use of standing there looking at me? I've broken up your life and my life, and all you do is stand there looking.
I don't believe it.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do, because it's true.
Oh, God. No, not you.
Yes, me. Well?
You want me to leave for good?
There's no other way out.
Yes, there is.
What do you mean?
There is. If only you're willing.
But I don't understand.
We've been together many years now.
Well?
I want you to try to come back to me. I'll leave you now to think things over. But I should like you to understand that I'm here waiting for you if you want me, ready and willing to forget and to start all over again. We'll gather up our shattered happiness as best we can. Good night, my dear.
How dare you go on like that?
What?
How dare you? Think of what I've told you, that I've been living the life of a harlot for the past 3 years, that I've disgraced you and dragged your name in the mud, and you go on being big and noble. It's nauseating. Don't speak to me. Don't come near me. You're beneath contempt. You've believed all I told you, and never once, in the face of such appalling disclosures, have you ceased to be in the picture. You've been noble, forgiving, understanding, and a broken man in turn, and never really sincere for one moment. Love me, indeed. You say you love me. Do you imagine that if you loved me even the tiniest bit, you'd behave like that? You were right when you suspected me at first. I was testing your wonderful love, just to see. You've been calling down the wrath of heaven on Irene Harrison's husband. You've accused him of being a brute and a wife-beater and a cad. He loved her, really deep down, and that's why he did what he did. All his illusions about her shattered at one blow, and his trust and adoration wrenched out by the roots. He didn't stop to think what an opportunity it was for him to be big and noble, because he was a man, a real man, which is more than you'll ever be. I'm sorry to disappoint you, David, but I'm a perfectly virtuous wife. I haven't transgressed for a moment.
I never believed any of those things.
Oh, that's a lie. A cheap, silly lion.
I'm afraid you've rather made a
Absolutely
fool of
typical.
yourself.
I've shown you up miserably, and you know it.
Not at all, my dear. You merely exposed a hitherto unexpectedly unpleasant side of your character.
And what of you? Allowing yourself to be led in and taken in by women like Marion, pals, the type of mind that appeals to you, long talks discussing everything, views on life. Oh, it's pitiful.
So all this pretty little scene has been prompted by jealousy of Marion.
Oh, jealousy. Oh, I should have known you'd have put it down to that.
Nevertheless, I'm right.
Why should I be jealous? You're less than nothing to me and have been for years, ever since I first began to see through you. Oh, your high aspirations and ideals. Oh, your wit and humour. Shams, all of them. Silly, cheap shams. You've been trying all your life, aided by a classical education, to throw dust in people's eyes, to make them believe you're intellectual and advanced. The clear modern brain that sees all sides of every question and judges impartially, who knows all about women. A thorough man of the world, and yet decent and clean. So decent and clean. There are hundreds of other men like you, playing up, always playing up, with perfectly commonplace brains, clicking like typewriters. You imagine in your absurd conceit that you're really grasping at something worth having, just because your endeavours are egged on by women of the Marion type, who camouflage their desire for your body behind a transparently effusive admiration for your brain.
Will you shut up talking like that?
No, I won't.
I'll make you.
Make me? How?
Never mind how. Now,
Oh!
you shut up.
Last. At last you've done something. You've stopped being big. A bully and a coward, but you've stopped being big.
I think I'm going to kill you.
Not you. Not you. Think of the consequences.
I'm going to kill you.
If you kill me, remember one thing. You shall be hanged by the neck until you are dead, and that won't be all. Not by any means. With your execution for my murder will die all the beautiful illusions about your nobility of character which you've been so busy building up in other people's minds all your life. And how stoically and bravely you listen to your death sentence without flinching, leaving the dock like a soldier, etc. It won't be any use. You will have fallen from your self-made pedestal. No really virtuous husband would murder his wife for not being unfaithful.
Oh,
Oh,
what's the matter?
thank God, Marion.
Yes, Marion, thank God.
Why? What is it? What's happening?
Nothing's happening. Nothing would ever happen. We're just talking things over and facing facts. Your favourite sport. Do come and join us.
Well, I came back simply because I couldn't bear to leave like I did, both of us having bickered and said unkind things to one another.
Shall we kiss?
Oh, if you're still going to be beastly, I shall go again.
You're never to go again, Marion. Never. Never, never. I've had a long talk with David, which has proved irrefutably how completely unworthy I am of him.
Look here, Marion.
David, Marion, you were made for each other. I've been gradually realizing it for months past. Now I know it. You both have the same instincts, and you both read Kipling. I'm an outsider, an interloper. Therefore, I'm going to drop out of the picture forever. David refuses to make it easy for me. Tonight I have tried everything possible. I have confessed to being a liar and an adulteress in the hopes that he would cast me out. But no, he wouldn't even consider it. He has been absolutely and unquestionably splendid. The fact that there wasn't really anything to be splendid about doesn't even matter. And he obviously had no intention of divorcing me for infidelity. I tried to make him strike me so that I could divorce him for cruelty. But no. He wouldn't. Oh, he did just twist my arm a tiny bit, but not enough even to bruise it. Do you see what an appalling position I'm in? I'm the one obstacle in the path of your united happiness. Without me in the way, you would fall into each other's arms and be happy for the rest of your lives. If by any chance either of you succumb to the temptations of the flesh and are unfaithful, there would always be understanding and forgiveness waiting in the home. In fact, understanding and forgiveness would be draped all over the house like those rather florid Christmas tree decorations the servants make. It would be ideal, and you would both be happy, really happy. I hereby relinquish to you, Marion, all my claims on David. The house is yours and everything in it, except my clothes. You can send them on to me. And I leave you in my bedroom as a symbol of the perfect faith I have in your joint integrity.
Alice, I'm sorry I behaved like a cad just now.
Alice, can't we all three come to some understanding and be pals together?
Never. I prefer to go out into the world alone. It's quite a big thing to do.
Alice,
What?
do you mean by all this? Where are you going? What are you going to do?
As somebody very truly remarked the other day, the existing divorce laws put a premium on perjury and adultery. Therefore, I'm going to find a lover and live in flaming sin, probably at Claridge's.
Oh, David, poor old David. I'm desperately sorry that all this should have ever happened.
Oh, it's all right, old thing. It wasn't your fault.
No, she'll come back to you, I promise. I'll make her come back to you.
Oh, good old Marion.
She's upset and nervy. I've been awfully worried about her lately. She's been looking so pale and seedy. She often goes for me and jibes at me, but underneath I know she's fond of me. I know she is. We understand each other pretty well, Alice and me.
She's a good sort all through, Alice. I don't mind her little tantrums. They amuse me.
Oh, well, that's just so very typical of you. You always penetrate through all the tiresome superficialities and get to the best of everybody.
To my mind, we should all try to make ourselves see things from every point of view.
Letter Half was brought to you by Topanga Actors Company. Marion was played by Alison Davies. Alice was played by Jessica Hendra. And David was played by Patrick Skelton. Your director was Edward John.